They thought they had buried her. When the board of directors escorted Marissa Cole out of her own bank, called calculated, and without warning they believed she'd vanished quietly, but they didn't know the woman they'd underestimated. Weeks later, as investors gathered under crystal chandeliers for an annual meeting, the screen flickered, and Marissa appeared with proof of betrayal that would shake the room. A CEO ousted, a secret was uncovered, and a comeback no one saw coming. This is the story behind Black CEO kicked out of her own bank, then she returned with proof and fired the entire board. If this story caught your attention, hit like to keep them coming. Marissa Cole had always played by the rules. Raised in a modest Detroit neighborhood, she'd grown up watching her mother work double shifts as a nurse just to make ends meet. That fire, that resilience, it had ignited something in Marissa. By 32, she had become one of the youngest black women in the country to found and lead a commercial bank. Not just any bank, but Cole Capital, a rising powerhouse focused on helping underrepresented communities build generational wealth. The boardroom was her domain. Each morning she walked through the marble-floored lobby in heels that clicked with confidence, greeted by staff who looked up to her not just as a boss but as a role model. Her bank was growing fast, investors were pouring in, headlines praised her vision. Behind closed doors, though, not everyone shared that enthusiasm. Her all-white board of directors had once supported her with cautious optimism. She was brilliant, yes, but some questioned her style. Too assertive, they whispered, too bold. Marissa knew those coded words. Still, she stayed focused on performance. Numbers don't lie, she told herself, but the murmurs were growing. There were closed-door meetings she wasn't invited to. Contracts she hadn't approved were showing up on her desk. Something was shifting then. It happened. On Tuesday morning, Marissa entered the boardroom, expecting to discuss expansion plans. Instead, she found silent sand, a manila envelope with her name on it. Inside, termination papers. Effective immediately, they read. No warning, no discussion, just betrayal. Her name was on the door, but she was no longer welcome in her own empire. The news spread fast. Cole Capital ousts CEO amid internal dispute. The headlines screamed, but there were no details. No one explained how the visionary founder of the bank had suddenly been removed. Some speculated mismanagement. Others assumed scandal. Marissa said nothing for now. She wasn't just stunned, she was furious. She had built that company from scratch. Had spent years working 80-hour weeks, navigated racial bias in pitch meetings, endured condescending smirks from investors who assumed she was just the assistant, and now they were pushing her out of her own company. The board's reason? Loss of confidence. They called it a necessary change in leadership to stabilize future direction. But behind closed doors, Marissa knew the truth. She had been fighting the board's attempt to redirect the bank away from community-focused lending. They wanted safer bets, hedge funds, luxury clients, corporate ventures. She had refused, and that's when they started plotting. But what they hadn't counted on was Marissa's discipline. Over the next few weeks, while the board scrambled to install an interim CEO, Marissa started digging. She quietly contacted former employees who had left after sudden policy changes. She found old emails buried in archived folders. There were whispers of backdoor deals, conflicts of interest, and hidden transfers of funds. With the help of a legal team and 2 whistleblowers from the finance department, Marissa began compiling a report not just about her removal but about the illegal practices the board had covered up. She was meticulous. Every number, every contract, every shady signature documented and timestamped. One of her most significant discoveries: a secret side agreement that funneled company assets to shell companies owned by board members' relatives, tens of millions of dollars, and it all came to a head when she secured an SEC investigation. But still, she made no public statement. Not yet. Instead, she waited until one particular Thursday. Cole Capital was hosting its annual general meeting. Investors, media, and employees gathered at the downtown venue to hear the board's new vision. The board chair stood confidently on stage, smiling as he spoke about new beginnings. But halfway through his speech, the projector behind him flickered and Marissa's face appeared live on screen. There was a stunned silence. Marissa stood tall in a sharp blue suit, flanked by legal counsel. The image behind her changed to a slide marked Cole Capital Board violations, a full report. Gasps filled the room as financial records, email chains, and wire transfers flashed on the screen, each more damning than the last. She didn't shout. She didn't gloat. She calmly laid out the evidence. Money siphoned into private accounts, documents altered, conflicts hidden, and all done under the same board that had deemed her unfit. The audience was frozen, half in shock, half in awe. And by the authority granted to me as majority shareholder, Marissa announced, I hereby reinstate myself as CEO and terminate the current board, effective immediately. Security guards entered the hall not to remove her, but to escort the board members out. The room erupted. Applause, shocked reporters scrambling for questions, employees crying. One investor yelled, "We believe in you, Marissa." She simply nodded and said, "We're going back to what this bank was meant to be, a force for justice." Dear audience, where are you watching from? Drop your city name in the comments. Marissa didn't just take back her seat at the table, she rebuilt the whole damn thing. With the board gone and investigations underway, she restructured Cold Capital from the ground up. She hired a diverse executive team, prioritized ethical transparency, and reopened loan programs for small businesses, especially in underserved black communities. But what mattered most was the message. Too often, women, especially black women, are pushed aside with a smile and a silent betrayal. They're told to be grateful, to be quiet, to step aside when the room grows uncomfortable. But Marissa refused. Her story made headlines for weeks, not as a scandal but as a reckoning. One financial columnist wrote, "In a system designed to shut her out, Marissa Cole didn't just break in, she rewrote the rules." And she wasn't done. Marissa launched a non-profit fund to help minority entrepreneurs protect their ownership rights. She gave lectures at business schools. She mentored young black women entering finance, repeating the same mantra: own your power and protect it. Looking back, Marissa knew her greatest weapon hadn't been her degrees or her titles. It had been her refusal to believe she didn't belong. This wasn't just about one woman and one bank. It was about the battles so many fight in silence, because racism doesn't always scream. Sometimes it whispers in boardrooms and policies, but even whispers can't survive the roar of truth. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to our channel for more powerful stories and fresh videos.